Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satan and Coffee, Sunday Black Mass. Hope you're all doing well. So, let's see here. As we always begin, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Pyman, hail Baphomet, hail thyself. We reject the Trinity, we reject the baptism of John, and we reject the baptism of the Spirit. I hope you're all doing well on this Sunday. Good to see everybody. Candace, Paperclip, welcome everyone. So interesting conversation that we're going to be having today, or direction. But as always, an indication of the cowardice of magicians of the right hand path is the practice calling upon a particular demon who would supposedly be a minion of the devil to do his bidding. The assumption is that the demon, being only a flunky of the devil, is easier to control. Occult lore states that only most formidable, protected, or insanely foolhardy sorcerer would try to call forth the devil himself. The Satanist does not call upon these lesser devils, but brazenly invokes those who people that infernal army, long-standing outrage, the devil's himself. Theologians have cataloged some of the names devils in their lists of demons, as might be expected, but the roster which follows contains the names most effectively used in satanic ritual. These are the names and origins of the gods and goddesses called upon, which make up the larger part of the occupancy of the royal palace of hell. The four crown princes of hell: Satan, Hebrew, adversary, opposite, accuser, lord of fire; Infernal, the south; Lucifer, Roman, bringer of light, enlightenment, the air; the morning star, the east; Belial, correct pronunciation, Belial; Belial, Hebrew, without a master, basenness of the earth, independence, the north; Leviathan, Hebrew, the serpent, out of the deeps, the sea, the west. Then we have the infernal names, which is roughly about 2 pages in this book. We're not going to go through all of the names here, but suppose that we could go over a few. Abaddon, Hebrew, the destroyer; Ammon, Egyptian ram-headed god of life and reproduction; Astaroth, goddess You know this is live when I'm trying to pronounce something in my head, guys. Lasciviousness. I know I butchered that. Equivalent of Babylonian Ishtar. Azazel, Hebrew, taught man to make weapons of war, introduced cosmetics. Baphomet, worshipped by the Templars, is symbolic of Satan. Behemoth, Hebrew, personification of Satan in the form of an elephant. So we're not going to be going through all of them. Just grabbing a few here. Ishtar, Babylonian goddess of fertility, Hecate, Greek goddess of the underworld and witchcraft. These are just a few. There's quite a few in here. I suggest that you kind of go in and you check it out. The devils of past religions have always, at least in part, had animal characteristics, evidence of man's constant need to deny that he too is an animal. For to do so would serve a mighty blow to his impoverished ego. The pig was despised by the Jews and the Egyptians. It symbolized the gods Frey, Osiris, Odinus, Attis, and Demeter, and was sacrificed to Osiris and the moon. But in time, it became degraded into a devil. The Phoenicians worshipped a fly god, Baal, from which comes the devil Beelzebub. Both Baal and Beelzebub are identical to the dung beetle, Scarabus, the Egyptians, which appeared to resurrect itself, much as the mythical bird, the phoenix, rose from its own ashes. The ancient Jews believed through their contact with the Persians that the two great forces of the world were Ahura Mazda, the god of fire, light, life, and goddess, and Ahriman, the serpent, the god of darkness, destruction, death, and evil. These and countless other examples do not only depict man's devils as animals, but also show his need to sacrifice the original animal gods and demote them to his devils. At the time of the Reformation of the 16th century, the alchemist Dr. John Fotis discovered a method of summoning a demon, Mephistopheles, from hell and making a pact with him. He signed a contract in blood and turned his soul over to Mephistopheles in return for the feeling of youth, and at once became young. When the time came for Fotis to die, he retired to his room and was blown to bits, though his laboratory had exploded. This story is a protest of the times, the 16th century, against science, chemistry, and magic. To become a Satanist, it is unnecessary to sell your soul to the devil or make a pact with Satan. This threat was devised by Christianity to terrorize people so they would not stray from the fold. With scolding fingers and trembling voices, they taught their followers that if they gave in to the temptations of Satan and lived their lives according to their natural predilections, they would have to pay for their sinful pleasures by giving their soul to Satan and suffering in hell for all eternity. People were led to believe that the pure soul was a passport to everlasting light. So this is a good point to kind of build upon. So the one thing that we kind of constantly run into when we talk about the left-hand path, we talk about the occult, we talk about all of these subjects in the Satanic Bible and many other books, we constantly kind of come back to this same concept, this same idea of talking about the fear and the guilt that is instilled in these Abrahamic faiths. That to be one way, to think one way, to live in a particular manner is to essentially condemn yourself to suffering by finding something pleasurable and enjoyable in this life and reveling in that is to condemn yourself to an eternity of suffering. The idea of selling your soul to get something that you want, to the necessity to create a pact with a demon. This is something that I see quite often in the left-hand path, in demonolatry, is morning arsenic. Curse, welcome. Gray, welcome. DA, welcome. Maybe welcome. Very nice. So we constantly kind of run into these subjects of creating these pacts and these agreements that I do this, I get this, right? And I believe in my years and years of doing this, the 20 plus years that I've been doing this, we have misinterpreted the idea of what these pacts actually mean. So when we create a pact, we create a contract, we create a connection to a particular entity. And within that connection, it's more of a promise for a predetermined amount of time within the pact to dedicate your work to said entity. It is in no way to sell your soul. The idea of selling your soul is a bit frivolous and a bit immature, quite honestly, because to sell one's soul, you cannot sell something that is inherently not yours. It is your soul. It is the battery that drives the person that you are. But the soul, one thing that's the misunderstanding of the soul, and this is this concept that has been created to perpetrate this concept of going to heaven and blissfulness for the rest of eternity, or going to hell for the rest of eternity. At the end of the day, who you are as a person is of your mind, not your soul. For as detrimental and as painful it is to think this way to so many people, because we want to believe wholeheartedly that who we are currently will continue on for the rest of eternity. And that simply just is not the case. We understand through psychology that who you are and how you react to certain things is due to a great combination of nature and nurture, or the lack thereof. Who you are as a person is a psychological construct built into your mind. That is who you are. Who you are today will never be who you will be later. Is there a form of resurrection or reincarnation? Yes. The soul is recycled. We know that energy cannot be destroyed. It merely changes form or goes someplace else. So we know this. The soul is pure cosmic energy, which is the thing that propels the body forward, propels the mind forward, and allows us to live the life that we live. Our brain produces electricity, and our bodies operate off of electrical signals. But even in science currently, we're not 100% certain as to how the body produces the amount of electricity that it does to operate in the way that it does. It's not to say that there aren't theories or concepts or ideas. Of course there are. But we haven't been able to pin the source of how it is produced. Because in order to be able to do that, we would actually have to cut open and look inside of a living person to figure out where those electrical signals are coming from, to be able to measure them and follow them. And we're not able to do so. And so, therefore, this idea of eternal life after death is one of the primary things that holds us back from being able to truly expand into this life. Because one of the reasons living this life is so important, it is so special, is because it is finite. Because we know that inevitably there is an end. Our existence here will die and disappear and be gone. The soul is the battery that propels the body forward. To create a pact is to create an agreement of a predetermined amount of time that you're going to work with a demon. You cannot sell your soul, because though your soul is the thing that is the cosmic energy that is propelling your body forward, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the universe. You belong to the universe. You belong to a greater whole that has existed long before any of us, long before our technology, long before our claims of Jesus of Nazareth and the resurrection and God and Allah, long before the claims of these deities and their manipulation of men, has existed this universal cosmic energy that stretches across and through everything in the fabric of the universe. And it is to that which we belong. We belong to that tree, the black tree of life and death. We are merely a branch that exists on that tree. In understanding that, and instead understanding that this is not a fight for souls, that selling your soul is not possible, creating a pact is, creating an agreement to work with an entity for a predetermined amount of time, that is more than acceptable. But to sell your soul is, quite frankly, not possible, because it does not belong to you, it belongs to the universe. The thing that we miss, especially in the left-hand path, the thing that many people don't like to talk about because they're afraid of the word, is discipline. So let's create a definition here today, before we go a bit further, into what the idea of discipline is in the context that we're bringing it up here today. So we have discipline and discipline. Discipline as in you do something wrong, you get disciplined for that incorrect action to redirect your action, which is what the church does. Church, Catholicism, Christianity, that is what they do. This is why you have confession. You confess your sins and then you are disciplined. So I always thought the idea and concept of confession to be quite ludicrous, because supposedly you say these prayers, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, all of these things, you say these things in reverence to your Lord, in reverence to, you know, your God and your belief, but it's also used as a punishment to repent your sins. It is a form of discipline to say these prayers, to cleanse one's soul of the sins, of the sinful life. I find it not only a bit contradictory, but also a bit controlling, I suppose, for lack of a better term. I always found that kind of humorous that they do that. Something that is supposed to be done from love is used as a form of discipline by the church, to say that somebody is wrong or incorrect. Interesting, no? So Discipline that we're going to be talking about, the definition here, is the continual focus and dedication to its supposedly restitution. It's still used as a disciplinary measure. Regardless of what word they put on it, it's used as a disciplinary measure. It's, Dad, I did this wrong. What should I do to make it right? Say these prayers, and these prayers will make what you did wrong right. It's discipline. It's punishment. Discipline that we're talking about is the dedication of focus and continuing your work regardless of surrounding measure, of surrounding ideals, of surrounding concepts. Discipline is I'm trying to figure out the best words to use here. And I figured I have an analogy that I think that I particularly like with this. And so being an occultist, being a practicing occultist can be quite literally, it can be compared to being a professional. So you can love what you do, right? You can love what you do and love waking up in the morning and doing your job every day. But inevitably that there are going to be days where you just don't want to work, that you don't want to get up and you don't want to do that thing that you have decided that you're going to do. And the difference between an amateur or hobbyist and a professional is that a professional gets up and shows up regardless of how they feel inside about doing something. And it takes discipline because the body in itself, the mind, the brain is lazy. The brain doesn't want to get up in the morning. The brain doesn't want to go to work. The brain doesn't want to go to the gym. The brain wants to find the path of least resistance to survive this life for as long as it can. That's how the brain is programmed. And the one thing that I've definitely understood about the occult is not the path of least resistance. It is quite literally the path of most resistance. Yes, it has its openness to be able to do things how you see fit and how you want to, but it is the path of uncovering hidden knowledge. The easiest and the path of least resistance would actually be become a Catholic, become a Christian. Everything's already laid out for you. The concepts and ideas of what need not do is already laid out in front of you. The frontal lobe, interaction is minimal, right? The necessity to actually theorize, think, and break things down is quite minimal because it is said by clergymen, internationally. It says these are secrets of the Bible. We do not question them. When they simply don't have an answer for something that makes absolutely no sense at all. Discipline is showing up. Discipline is being focused. Discipline is not a bad thing. People are afraid of the word discipline. They're afraid of that point of focus. They're afraid of finding out that they are not disciplined, that they do not have discipline, that they are where they are because they are afraid to admit that they do not have the discipline necessary to propel and push themselves forward to where they want to be. It is quite literally that simple. This is why people are afraid of the word discipline. Because to say one is not disciplined enough to do something is looked upon and said to be painful for the person. It's offensive to them to admit that they do not have the discipline or fortitude to do something. And one of the biggest problems in today's society with being able to build oneself in society is that we are terrified of offending people. If you had a monicum of self-accountability, personal responsibility, you'd need not someone else external from you to tell you that you're not disciplined. You yourself would be able to identify that you are not disciplined and then be able to course correct without the need of anyone else's comments or misconceptions of yourself. This is what the left-hand path teaches us. This personal accountability, this self-responsibility. It teaches us the necessity of discipline. When you create a pact with an entity, you are creating a contractual agreement with said entity that you are going to do X, Y, and Z. You are no longer in a position of, I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it. You have created a pact, an agreement that you will. Therefore, you must follow through. Working with demonic entities, working in the left-hand path is much like trying to get a job. If you show up the first couple of days and you do good and then you just stop going, eventually your name's going to start to get around the area. And eventually people aren't going to start hiring you because you just don't show up. We all have a certain level or form of discipline. It's required in this life. Anyone that has a job and has been able to keep and hold down a job has a level of discipline. How many times have you woken up in the morning and said, dude, I just want to stay home, but you go anyway? Why? Because you want that paycheck, right? Because you know that paycheck's going to buy you food. It's going to pay your rent. It's going to buy your computer. It's going to buy whatever it is that you need to pay for. It is going to pay for the things that you need to pay for, in part or in whole. Hence the reason you continue to show up every day. So everyone has a certain form of discipline. Going to school. Don't want to go to school. Don't want to go to a particular class. You still go. Now, most of us have discipline through fear of consequence. So this is a big thing to kind of take into consideration here. I pulled out my microphone. There we go. This is a big thing to take into consideration here. Is much of the discipline that we have in our lives is discipline through fear. We do what our parents tell us because we're afraid of consequences. We're afraid of being grounded. We're afraid of having the console taken away. We're afraid of not being able to go to the party, not being able to use the car. We go to work because we want to earn money, because we don't want to be homeless, because we don't want to be hungry, because we don't want to be naked. Most of the discipline that we operate off of is through fear. One of the biggest things that the left-hand path teaches us to allow us to grow is to change the manner of discipline that we have. If you are living in a sense of discipline through fear, or discipline through concern of repercussion, change it to discipline for self-improvement. Instead of it being forced discipline that someone is putting on you to force you to do something that you don't want to do because you feel you need to do it for the sake of your own survival or the survival of those that you care about, change it to a form of discipline that is for self-improvement, self-focus. On the days that it is difficult to get out of bed, on the days that it is difficult to make your bed, on days that it is difficult to go to the gym, on days that it is difficult to do whatever it is that you want to do, instead of saying, if I don't do this, this bad thing's going to happen, say, if I do this, this good thing is going to happen to me, and I'm going to make it happen. And even on the days that you don't want to show up, you show up. Because you know that work and that effort that you're putting into it is what is going to propel you forward. It's that simple. Now, hail, Candace. Hail. Everything. It is. Well, I don't even think that that's a but, though, Curse. At times, it's best to realize what's best for you. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about realizing what is best for you and changing and moving the way that you are, the way that you do things, and turn it into a positive. The world is surrounded inside of negatives. And see, this is the thing that always I find hilarious about people that talk about the left-hand path and think that the left-hand path is so evil and so dark. And we're talking about positive thinking here, right? We're not talking about thinking negatively. We're talking about removing negative thought and negative connotation to our life and how we do things, and making it something that is positive and making it something that can propel us forward. In terms of realizing what is best for you, discover why you feel this way, that is exactly, one of the things that you have to do if you're going to change why, change your perspective on how you view discipline and the type of discipline that you apply to your life. You have to discover why you feel a certain way. But that's for the individual to figure out. It could be that you simply just hate your job. It could be that you hate your boss. It could be that it's not your career. It could be it's not what you thought it was. The point is if you're not happy with something, you can change it. And through discipline and focus, you can make something that everyone thought was nothing into something. Perfect example of this. So many of you have probably already heard this story, but I'm going to retell it in a very horrible way because I'm missing so many details. But the premise fits perfectly. Kentucky Fried Chicken. The man that started Kentucky Fried Chicken was, I believe, 60 or 70 something years old when he started selling his chicken door to door. Quite literally, would cook chicken, go door to door, and sell his chicken to people. At 60 or 70 years old. He was not a young man when he started. If I do remember correctly, he was retired, got bored, and wanted to do something. And so at 60, 70 years old, everybody that has tried his chicken said, this is good stuff, you should sell it. And I guess he just said, okay. And KFC was born. Like I said, there's a lot of details that I was missing. But I do know that he started selling his chicken door to door at 60 to 70 years old. And it is a testament to discipline. You can't tell me that the guy, we love to hear the story in short because, yeah, he started selling chicken door to door and boom, KFC, international franchise all over the world. You're missing everything that happened in the middle. We love those rag to riches stories, right? We love that motivation. We love to see bad to good, missing the work in between. So for somebody to succeed at something like what he succeeded at, the requirement here would be that he shows up. Exactly. He shows up. Like there's probably there's a lot more to this story. Like I said, I don't know if I don't remember or I didn't know that he was in the military. I do know that he was like retired or something and he got bored. He wanted to do something. And so at 67, he just started selling his chicken door to door. And it is a great story. Super simple, but it's a concept of one, it's never too late. One, it's never too late to change things. Never too late to try something different. Never too late. Right? So even if today you don't want to do it, it's still never too late to wake up tomorrow and say, screw it, today's the day. Right? I would say, don't wait for tomorrow, because if you wait for tomorrow, then waiting for tomorrow becomes the next day and the day after. And so I would say, if you have the idea and in your brain you are telling yourself, I should do this, then just do it. Or at least map out and plan out how it is that you do it. And then take those steps forward. Because even a little baby step this big, is still a step forward. It's never too late to be what you might have been. I like that. And yes, it's 100% correct. It's never too late to shift things around, to do things differently. And then 2, what this story teaches us, perseverance and discipline can take that idea that you have at any point in your life and you can do something with it. Because I assure you that the man that started KFC did not start selling chicken door to door one day and then take a week off. I assure you that is not what he did. I don't know exactly what he did, but I can assure you that he didn't do that. That he didn't make a bunch of chicken, go door to door, sell it. Today was a good day, and then take a week off. I assure you that that's not what happened. What I assume happened is he made the chicken, started selling it door to door, realized that it was selling really, really well, went and made more chicken and expanded where he was selling from. There you go, man. Even just a few steps. Look, I exercise regularly. And there are points where, embarrassingly, I will not do anything for a week or two. And one day, so actually recently, so the last couple of weeks, I haven't really touched my weights. My weights are behind me. Just, I make my bed, shower, stuff like that. And it's just because I just didn't want to get up early. I didn't normally wake up 5:30 in the morning. And I've been waking up at 7:15, 7:30 with a half an hour to get ready for work. And the problem is I got into this cycle, right? Like I got into this cycle where, I would wake up late and I screw it. I don't have time to do it today. And I would beat myself up emotionally, right? Like we like to talk about the things that we say in our head, like, you're bad this, you're bad that. But let's be completely honest. Some people may, more than I'd probably like to admit, but most people, it isn't really negatively speaking about yourself, but necessarily just feeling negative about yourself because you weren't able to achieve something or do something that in your mind is a simple task. Now, it's a good thing that you think it's a simple task. That's a good thing. Because that means you have control over whether or not you do it or not, whether or not you're able to achieve it. So, there's one morning I woke up about a few days ago. I woke up finally at the hour that I wanted to wake up. I woke up at 5:30, went to the bathroom, stood in front of the sink. My eyes were half open. And I had the biggest debate of my life with myself about whether or not to go back to bed. In my brain, the muscle in my head was telling me you could sleep for another half an hour. You could sleep for another half an hour and then get up and do some of the stuff that you want to do. And the other half was saying, dude, you're already awake. Just do what you need to do. You're already awake. Right? And I'm so happy that I won that conversation. Like the conscious version of myself that wants to do things won that conversation. I won that conversation by grabbing my toothbrush, putting toothpaste on it, and just brushing my teeth and going deep on the tongue, because that reflex that happens when you brush your tongue wakes me up. And I worked out and I did everything. And then so far, every morning thus far, I've been waking up roughly about the same time and getting my work done. It happens. We're all going to have ups and downs. I'm the person preaching about using your discipline, creating positive discipline for yourself to improve yourself, to improve your life. Positive discipline. Discipline yourself. Discipline yourself. Have control of your discipline. Don't have discipline through fear of repercussion, of consequence. Have discipline for the pure, energetic excitement of what lays ahead because of those things that you're going to achieve. Yes, Karate Kid is actually a great movie about discipline. Like, whether it's the old one or the new one, like, I think both of them have kind of like certain, like, different aspects. I think the newer version with Bruce Willis's kid definitely has, you know, a decent modern perspective on the necessity of discipline, right? Buddhism allowed me to change how I think. There is now no need for shame. Just be authentic in the moment. No past, no future. Talk to yourself like a best friend. You'd never be so harsh. I like that statement. Yes. Let's see, Curse. I want to be a writer, and every time I write, I get self-conscious, and no one would want to read. Imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is something that all of us creatives suffer from. I suffer from imposter syndrome to this day. Every time I hit that go live button, I suffer from imposter syndrome. That my ideas are just insane and crazy and nobody wants to listen to me, right? Well, what right do I have to be saying the things that I'm saying? And it's not about right, having the right. We all have the right, you know, is to express our opinions and our feelings on things. It's just putting yourself out there. Like today, I'll give you a perfect example. Today, the show today. I didn't want to do today's show. I've been sitting here in this chair, half awake, most of the morning. Right? Did a lot of squats the other day, and about, I don't know how many hours of walking, and my legs are just killing me. Like, my bottom half is dead. Like, it feels like, you know, crunchy spaghetti. And I didn't want to do today's show. But the positive influence, the positive discipline kicked in. I was like, people are waiting for this show. People need to hear what it is that you're saying, what it is that you want to put out there, right? And they're waiting for you to hit that go live button. They're waiting. Some people have said that, you know, whether it's Apocrypha or this show, that this helps them get through their week, the next week that's coming through, right? And so I hit the go live button. I set everything up, cleaned up my desk, pulled out the Satanic Bible, and moved forward. Now, how this applies, all of this applies to the left-hand path, is the left-hand path is a life philosophy. There are many different faiths and belief systems that fall inside of the left-hand path. You do not need to be a demonologist or even a Satanist to be a left-hand path. Left-hand path, though yes, is a theological, to a degree, is a theological concept. It is more than anything. It is a philosophy, a life philosophy. Left-hand path is the path of discipline, self-accountability, and personal responsibility. Those three focal points is what encompasses the left-hand path. Discipline to self. Discipline to self-improvement. Not discipline through fear of consequence or something bad happening or repercussion, but discipline to self through respect and love of self. Personal accountability. I think that doesn't even need an explanation. And the same thing with self-responsibility or personal responsibility. Those 3 points are the primary points that encompass the left-hand path. Now, you can be a Luciferian, you can be a Satanist, you can be a demonologist, you can be an atheist, and you can still be left-hand path. Because through the right-hand path, we've learned through centuries that God and the devil are the reason why good and bad happen. Good things happen because God wants it to happen. Bad things happen because the devil wanted it to happen and God allowed it to happen. But there is no personal accountability that something bad happened because I made a decision that had a negative repercussion towards me. And again, take into consideration through the left-hand path, the understanding that there's no good choice or bad choice. They're just choices and consequence. Consequence can be something that is a consequence you want or a consequence you don't want. And that's how we define it being a good choice or a bad choice. It's a bad choice if it affects me negatively. It's a good choice if it affects me positively. It's a horrible choice if it affects me and other people negatively. But at the end of the day, when we think about our life in terms of good and bad, we are limiting ourselves in opportunities to grow and understand. Understanding that there are no good choices or bad choices, just choices that need to be made. And then consequences to those choices, whether good or bad, gives us a better opportunity to learn from these decisions, learn from these choices that we're making, and apply discipline. When we realize that we made a choice that has, a negative impact on us, through discipline, we are able to move forward and kind of hack through that decision to understand better why we made that decision and what we can do better in the future for similar situations. Because we're taking responsibility for our actions. We are the ones that made the choice. I chose to say that. I chose to do that. I chose to go here. I chose whatever it is. There's a choice that you made somewhere down the line that can be analyzed and dissected for better understanding of self, discipline of self, working on yourself, applying discipline to move yourself forward in the left-hand path, in the ritual space. In the ritual space, this discipline is applied to say that if we create a pact or we want to see a certain, result in the ritual work that we're doing, whether we're working with Satan or King Paimon or Lucifer or Lilith or whomever, Baphomet, whoever we may be working with, then that discipline of going to the altar when you have decided is the day and time for you to go to the altar and performing that ritual and bringing yourself in that space, not only is that going to help improve your personal discipline, but that's also going to alleviate a lot of that negativity. At least in my case, when I sit there and say, like, there's times I'll look at my altar, but like, I really should do a ritual. Like, I don't even have one planned. I'm like, I really should do a ritual. And then my brain goes, dude, that's work. I don't want to do work. We want to sit here and play video games and eat Funyuns all day. That personal discipline, that personal accountability is to sit there and say, yes, we are in constant battle with our brain. You and everyone else in the world. Some people are better doing fly decisions. Other people have to go through that debate inside their head. They have to debate their brain. Before they're able to move forward, before they're able to do anything, they have to have that debate with their brain about actually moving their ass. I'm one of those people. But through ritual work, through discipline, personal discipline, building personal discipline, which helps build personal control, self-control of making proper and accurate decisions when necessary, I'll sit there and I'll look and be like, oh, I really should do a ritual, but I don't want to. Like, the part of my brain, I don't want to. That is one thing. That's the first thing that I learned to cut out. Because if you are sitting there saying, hey, I really should do this, and then you say out loud, but I don't want to, pay attention. You're saying that you should, meaning you want to do this thing. It is the kind of reptilian, instinctive part of your brain saying, don't do it. So what I stopped doing is I stopped vocalizing that I don't want to. I stopped vocalizing that. I stopped putting that out there. I stopped saying, running it in my head. Like, I know that feeling is there. I can feel it. But I push the feeling back. That feeling of not wanting to do something, I push it back. And say, I should do this. Okay, let's do it. And I immediately jumped, okay, let's just do it. Getting up in the morning, right, is just want an extra half an hour. I don't vocalize it. Because I know the primary part is I need to get up. Oh, I just want an extra half an hour. Don't give that feeling before it becomes a thought form in your brain that has words attached to it. And if you're anything like me, you vocalize what you're thinking, even if there's nobody else around. Yes, I talk to myself. I don't answer myself. According to my mother, you can talk to yourself, you just can't answer yourself. If you answer yourself, you're crazy. I don't answer myself, but I do talk to myself. I wake up in the morning and, like, working out and be like, all right, I need to get a workout in. I can feel that thing in the back of my head saying, just another half an hour. I don't vocalize it. I don't give it life. I don't allow it to move forward to the front of my brain. I just get up and move on that first notion, the first thing that popped in my head that said, I need to do this. I move on that. Now, is this going to work for everybody? Probably not. Does it work for me? It works for me. Might it help some of you guys? Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, then I'm sorry. But the left-hand path and Baphomet have given me this understanding. And it's not to say that every single day is perfect. I just told you guys that, the last couple of weeks, I haven't been getting up when I want to, and I haven't been working out. There's always going to be those stuck times. And when those stuck times happen, don't beat yourself up about it. Because if you didn't do what you wanted to do this morning today, if you didn't do what you wanted to do today, tomorrow is still another day. To just make a decision and do something. Discipline through self-improvement. Gratitude is the attitude, the voice in my head, moaning. I counter with being grateful. I can barely move. Some are disabled. I get life, breathe, safety. Hey, that's a good way to look at it as well, man. That's a good way to look at it as well. Like, turn it into gratitude. Like, that other people have it worse in a situation, than what we're currently in. And, it can be worse for us, and it's not, That's another good way of looking at it. I hate the feeling of spiritual burnout, but it's okay to take breaks. Yeah, perfectly. It is perfectly okay, to take breaks and kind of like, let up a little bit and stuff like that. It on anything, like don't get confused. Being disciplined for personal growth or for any reason really should never equate to you burning out on what it is you're trying to do. Being disciplined is also understanding when you need a break and being honest with yourself about that, because that's being disciplined. That's having a certain level of disciplining and understanding about yourself. Discipline does not mean burn yourself out until you can no longer do it. It's also an understanding of saying, okay, I need a break from this for today or tomorrow, and then we're going to go back into it. And that's where the discipline comes in. It's okay to take a break. The discipline kicks in. That self-improvement discipline kicks in. Okay, I took a couple of days off. We're good to go. Let's jump into it, right? Let's dive in, right? So that is how I look at it. That is what I really wanted to talk about today, for today's sermon, for today's kind of conversation, is the importance of discipline in the left-hand path and the philosophical aspects of the left-hand path. Which is why I've actually had a few messages recently in comments of people, a person in particular saying, I'm not a Satanist or I'm not a demonologist, but I subscribe to Hope That's Okay. This channel is for everyone. Yes, I am personally focused on demonolatry, Satanism as it is philosophically through the Satanic Bible, and providing people a better philosophical understanding of the left-hand path. But everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. You all are amazing. Thank you all for being here. And as always, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, hail Baphomet. And, of course, most of all, always, hail thy fucking self. And we'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Goodbye.